Welcome once again to Celebrate Corner, a show that discusses all things bariatric from the perspective of a patient, me, and a registered dietitian. My name is Nick. I'm the Vice President of Sales for Celebrate Vitamins.
And I'm Sam, and I'm a registered dietitian and the Director of Nutrition. So Nick, how's Nashville treating you?
Nashville is great. It is sunny, it is hot, it is humid, much like Wadsworth, Ohio, I'm guessing. But you know, it's really weird. I think that people are making a break for the end of summer. Traffic was bumper to bumper this morning. I had trouble getting in through Midtown. It was crazy. I don't know what the heck was going on.
Well, I'm ready for the next season too. I'm ready for summer to be over and fall to get here. But I thought you worked from home.
Well, I do. I was just trying to relate to everybody else.
So today we're going to talk about something very important to anyone who's ever had weight loss, and that is regain and its effects on our surgical weight loss patients in our audience. Now, Nick, you don't have to go into specifics, but since you're 4 years out from surgery, have you ever had to deal with any regain issues?
Well, not going into actual numbers, I've had a little bit come back, but I've managed to take it all off again. I got very serious about my workouts, and I did not allow myself to simply have a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And this brings up an interesting question that I have for you, Sam. Now, I've heard the term regain. I've heard it in work. I've heard it obviously from patients, and I've heard it from surgeons. But what actually constitutes regain? Is it when you put on any amount of weight?
That's a great question. So I think when we're discussing regain, there's two important definitions to consider to make sure that we're using the correct terminology. So that first definition would be insufficient weight loss. And that means that the percentage of excess weight that is lost is less than 50% of total body weight in the first 18 months after surgery. Now, the other definition would be true weight regain, which means that there's a progressive increase in weight following successful weight loss after surgery. But if we're looking at the strictest definition of weight regain, then yes, that starts at pound 1. Now, regain is going to present differently for everyone. So to say that there's an exact percentage for every single person, that would be hard because there's other factors to consider, such as certain medical conditions that could contribute to that. But for our simplistic purposes, we will term in this episode bariatric regain when a patient loses whatever percentage of excess body weight, and then they start to see a slow increase in their weight thereafter.
So that would mean if a patient initially loses 100 pounds and they gain back 50 pounds, that would be considered regain.
Sure, but even if someone regains less than that amount, it could be categorized as regain, and it really should be addressed because losing 10 pounds is less of a hurdle than losing 50 pounds of weight gain. And this is where I insert my plug that every patient has heard in their practice, that I've stated to every single patient in my practice. When an individual begins to experience weight regain, do not hesitate to reconnect with your surgical program immediately. Because not only are there diet and lifestyle interventions that are possible, there are also other medical methods and interventions that can be implemented, such as pharmacotherapy.
Oh, okay. Well, just for those watching, what the heck is pharmacotherapy?
So for simple, basic purposes, it could be medicine that you can take to help suppress your appetite.
Now, of course, I knew that, but, other people may not have.
Of course.
Now it's time in our show that we are going to, we're going to see who pays the bills. So a word from our sponsor. Take it away, Mr. Sponsor.
Since Celebrate Vitamins beginning in 2008, we focused on putting people before profits. Our supplements come in a variety of forms and flavors, provide the highest quality at an affordable cost, and adhere to all ASMBS guidelines. Remember to visit celebratevitamins.com for all your bariatric supplement needs.
And we are back. Now we're going to go to the next segment where we actually discuss the specifics of weight regain after weight loss surgery. Now, Sam, it's been my experience, and what I've observed is that regain really isn't that big of a deal. Is that the case?
Well, actually, Nick, regain is more prevalent than really we think. The truth is, approximately 1/4 of patients experience considerable weight regain after surgery. So, some degree of regain is expected for every patient after they reach their lowest weight at that 18-month mark. But I really don't know of any clinician that can state that they've had a patient reach that low weight and maintain it long term thereafter. So, but then that makes me think, Nick. So you have not suffered from regain and you're 4 years after surgery. What is it that you're doing that you feel is contributing to your success?
Well, everyone's different. So, speaking from my own personal experience, I need to follow a very strict regimen of diet and exercise that's multifaceted. Uh, First of all, I drink a great deal of water every day. I stay away from sugar. I stay away from empty calories. I eat only when it's time to eat. In other words, I don't graze. And I work out 5 to 6 times a week, and the workouts last anywhere from 45 to 50 minutes.
So those are all really keys to staying on track. There's a combination of hydration, diet, and exercise that all pay for long term. But there's some factors that Nick mentioned that I really would like to touch upon. And the first one really is what he mentioned about grazing. So there's one study that I found, and it reviewed almost 1,000 participants. And those participants reported there was grazing reported in up to 46% of those participants. And of that 46%, 47% reported that they have experienced weight regain. So, immediately after surgery, there's changes to our hormone levels. The main hormones that promote fullness and they reduce hunger, they increase after surgery. And on the flip side of that, the hormone called ghrelin that can make us feel hungry, that decreases. So it makes weight loss very much obtainable after surgery. However, over time, these changes in levels begin to go away, which is what really can lead to weight regain.
So, Sam, what you're saying is that the ghrelin levels return, the hormone starts to produce a signal to your brain that tells you to eat, or rather, maybe that you're hungry and don't actually need to consume calories. Now, I'll tell you that this did happen to me at about the 6-month mark. But in my situation, I believe the reason I had success in this was because of my habits. I established a pattern that I was able to stick with, and I was able to avoid the pitfall of eating off schedule, if you will.
Sure. And that's great that you were able to do so. And that brings up the second factor that I like to address, which is calorie intake. So initially, eating that low calorie diet, it's simple due to the restriction and these changes in hormone levels that people are experiencing. But what our viewers may not be aware of is reactive hypoglycemia or dumping syndrome and its effects on weight regain. So as high as 54% of gastric bypass patients can experience hypoglycemia. And this occurs when we consume a high carbohydrate food. Our bodies cause a reaction where we secrete or release high amounts of insulin. And then this increase in insulin release can lead to an increase in snacking because it can cause us to feel hungry hours later. And both sleeve and bypass patients, 79% of them reported that they have experienced about 10% of weight regain at 4 years after surgery.
Well, any way you look at it, almost 80% of patients clearly indicates a major problem. This is another reason to establish good habits immediately following surgery. Now, portion control is always going to be a factor, as well as staying away from those empty calories.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, the last point that I would like to discuss is physical activity. The fact is that only 10 to 24% of surgical patients meet the recommended guidelines for physical activity, which is 150 minutes of moderate exercise weekly.
I'll do the math for you. Break that down. That's 30 minutes of exercise 5 days a week.
Yeah. And, something that I found that was even potentially a bigger problem is that almost 30% of patients report being less active after surgery than they were before. And again, this is where I tell you, reconnect with your practices for support. And another option for exercise, especially over this past year and a half, would be, reach out to your HR rep. Discuss with them, are there any worksite wellness programs that might be available that you can engage with? When I was practicing in bariatric clinic, patients weren't even aware that they had this opportunity offered to them, which was great that they were able to find out and they did engage with it. And, during COVID, something that I learned where a lot of health insurers were offering wellness programs direct to their plan members.
So basically, you need to get up and move. Take a daily walk. Park your car a little further away from the store. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. There's so many things that you can do to get your heart rate up and get yourself moving. And it doesn't have to be jogging in place.
Yeah, for sure.
So now it is time for that coveted segment that we love to hear from the cooking guru, the seer of seers, the greatest chef ever known to man. Take it away, cooking guru. What I want to do is I want to talk to you about slicing an onion. Now, I know I've done this for you in the past, but I want to do it again because it's worth talking about. How do you chop an onion? It's easy, okay? But there's actually a specific way to do it. So what you do is you cut your onion in half, and the stem that goes up out of the ground, you cut that off. And the part that goes into the ground, you leave that on. And what that little nub does is it holds all the onion together, okay? So then what you want to do is you want to take your onion and you want to make cuts this way, okay? 3 cuts, and then turn the onion and then make cuts this way, okay? And then once again, turn the onion, and from the side, what you'll do is you'll just have a nice chopped onion that comes out, looks very much like this, a nice chopped onion. So that's what we have for you today. And we don't need that anymore. We'll clean that up later.
And we are back with our final segment of our show to discuss tips from Nick.
Okay, so the tip today is very simple. Weigh yourself on a regular basis. Now, I'm not saying weigh yourself every day. In fact, I think that would be a mistake. But weigh yourself, let's say once a week. I weigh myself every Friday morning. I get out of bed. The first thing I do is I step on the scale and I see where I'm at. Okay? Don't be afraid of the scale. Make the scale your friend. It's no big deal. There's a saying in business I've heard many, many times that if you can't measure it, you can't fix it. And in this case, if you won't measure it, you won't fix it. So go ahead, get on the scale, see if you need to cut back or see if you're right on track. You'll be glad that you did. So that is the end of our show today. Thank you so much for joining us on Celebrate Corner. I hope there are some things that you can take away from you and made your day a little bit better. So until next time, I'm Nick.
And I'm Sam. Thanks for watching, everyone.